There are two kinds of phone calls from people who once threw you out, and I picked up the wrong one. My name is Daniel Reyes. I'm 34. I work metal for a living. Gates, railings, fences, the kind of thing people don't notice until it rusts. My hands tell you everything about my last 15 years. Burn marks, a thumbnail that never grew back right, calluses I've stopped feeling. 3 years ago, I was engaged to a woman named Sophie Calloway. 2 months before the wedding, her mother, Margaret, decided I wasn't the shape of son-in-law she'd ordered. She didn't yell. Margaret never yells. She just made things quietly impossible until Sophie and I both broke under the weight of it, and the engagement ended in a kitchen that smelled like her mother's perfume. I hadn't spoken to that family since. I'd built a life, a small one, a workshop, a rescue dog named Boomer, a daughter I see every other weekend from a marriage that came after Sophie and ended gentler than it began. Her name is Lucy. She's 7. She is the entire reason my chest still works. So when Margaret Calloway's name lit up my phone on a Tuesday afternoon, I stood in my workshop and let it ring twice while I decided who I wanted to be. Then I answered, "Daniel." Her voice was warm, the way a stove is warm. Pleasant until you touch it. "I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I have a little project, and honestly, you were the first person I thought of." A little project. That's how it started. The project was a fence. 40 feet of wrought iron along the back of Margaret's property, where the old fence had finally given up. She wanted it custom, scroll work, the good stuff. I could hire anyone, she told me when I came to look at it, walking me across grass so even it looked photographed. But anyone would do a fine job. I wanted someone who'd do a careful one. I should have heard it. Careful. Margaret never wasted a word. I gave her a fair quote. She didn't blink at it, which is its own kind of warning. We shook hands on the patio, and that's when I saw Sophie. She was inside, at the kitchen window, holding a coffee mug she wasn't drinking from. 3 years, and she looked tired in a way I recognized, the specific exhaustion of living inside that house. She lifted 2 fingers off the mug, a wave so small only I would catch it. Then her mother said something, and Sophie turned away. "She's home for a while," Margaret said lightly, following my eyes. "Between things, you know how it is." I didn't actually, but I nodded. I worked that fence for 6 weeks. Margaret came out most mornings with iced tea I didn't ask for and conversations I didn't start. "Lucy must be getting big," she said one day. I'd never told her my daughter's name. Sophie always did love children. It's a shame, really, how things land. "The fence is coming along," I said. "It is," she smiled. "You always were dependable, Daniel. That's rarer than people think." Another morning. Custody must be hard. A man on his own, a child every other weekend, the lawyers, the schedules, exhausting. She let it sit. "If you ever needed someone in your corner, someone with resources, family looks after family. We always thought of you as family." I set down my welder. "We're not family, Margaret. We were almost in-laws. There's a difference." She laughed like I'd told a joke. "Of course. I only mean, doors don't have to stay closed." That night, I told my buddy Vince about it over the phone. Vince has known me 20 years. "She's softening you up," he said. "Nobody buys 40 feet of scroll work and serves you iced tea for the craftsmanship, Danny. What does she want?" "I don't know." "You will." I found out the morning I welded the last panel. It was a good day. The fence was beautiful. I'll say that without shame because I earned the right to. The iron caught the light. The scroll work ran clean. And for 1 minute, I stood back and just looked at the best thing I'd made all year. Margaret came out. No iced tea this time. A folder. "Sit with me," she said. We sat at the patio table. She placed the folder between us and rested one manicured hand flat on top of it, like she was keeping something from floating away. "You've done lovely work," she said, "and I'd like to do something lovely for you. There's a bonus in here, a real one. Enough to make a difficult year easier." She tapped the folder twice. "Finish it. Finish it the way I know you can, and I'll make it worth your while." "The fence is finished, Margaret." "The fence," she smiled. "I wasn't talking about the fence." And there it was. 6 weeks of iced tea, narrowing to a point. Sophie's been low, she said, since she came home. She needs stability, a familiar face, a man who's proven he's reliable. And you have something Sophie wants very much, Daniel. You have a daughter, you have a household, you have proof you can build a life. I didn't move. I'm asking you to let an old door open, she said. Spend time with her. Let it become what it once nearly was. And the folder isn't only a bonus. There's more, ongoing, the kind of support a single father shouldn't have to refuse. The custody battles, the legal fees, all so much smoother with the Calloways behind you. The patio was very quiet. Somewhere a sprinkler ticked. You want to pay me, I said slowly, to date your daughter. I want to invest, she said, in two people I care about being happy. And if I say no? Her hand didn't leave the folder, but something behind her eyes did the math out loud. You have a daughter, she said gently. Custody is a delicate thing. Judges listen to character, to references, to patterns. A man with a temper, a man who can't hold things together. That's a story, Daniel, and stories can be told by people with resources, or they can be told by people without them. She let me hear it fully. I'd so much rather be in your corner than across the room. There it was, the second envelope inside the first. The money was the offer. My daughter was the threat. The kitchen window was empty. Sophie wasn't there. And I understood, with a cold drop in my stomach, that Sophie probably didn't know any of this, that she was a piece on this table too. I want to tell you I stood up and shouted. I didn't. The skill of a man like me, when the heat is highest, is to put the torch down slow. Margaret, I said, I'm going to say 3 things, then I'm going to leave. She folded her hands. Permission, granted like a queen. First, the fence is done and it's good, and you'll pay me the quoted price, not $1 more, because the price was for iron, and iron is all you're getting from me. Daniel, second, I didn't raise my voice, I just didn't stop. My daughter is not a pressure point. She is not leverage. The fact that you reached for her tells me everything I spent 6 weeks not letting myself see. You don't bring up a man's child as a threat unless threatening people is a thing you do comfortably. And I think it is. I think you've done it for years, to Sophie most of all. The warmth went out of her face the way heat leaves a metal once you cut the gas. And third, I stood. Sophie deserves to know what her mother was selling at this table. So I'm going to tell her. Not to win anything, because somebody in her life should hand her the truth instead of a folder. You'd be making a mistake, Margaret said very softly. The pleasantness was gone now. This was the real voice. I gave you a chance to be looked after. No, I said, you gave me a chance to be owned. They're not the same, and the fact that you can't tell them apart is the saddest thing about you. I walked to my truck. And the kitchen door opened, and Sophie was standing there, and from her face, the white, stunned stillness of it, I knew she'd heard enough. She didn't look at me. She looked at her mother. The window was open, Mom, she said. Her voice shook and held at the same time. It's been open the whole time. Margaret's mouth opened. For once, nothing came out. I got in my truck. That part wasn't mine to watch. Margaret paid the quoted price. Exactly. The check came in the mail with no note, which was the most honest thing she ever sent me. Sophie called 2 weeks later. Not to rekindle anything, that door had closed years ago, and neither of us tried the handle. She called to say she'd moved out. A small apartment across town, the first place that had ever been only hers. She said she'd spent 3 years being managed and hadn't had a word for it until she heard her mother put a price on a man's child over iced tea. I kept thinking the fence looked nice, she said, and laughed in a way that was half a sob. And then I thought, that's the only honest thing in this whole yard. We don't talk often, but when we do, she sounds like someone who finally lives in her own house, in every sense. That's enough. That's good. As for me, I took Lucy to the workshop that weekend. She wanted to know what I'd been building, so I showed her a photo of the fence, all 40 feet of scroll work catching the light. Did the lady like it? She asked. She did, I said. But you know what? It was never really for her. Lucy looked at the photo, then at me, deciding whether that made sense. Kids do that." Then she shrugged and asked if Boomer could have a hot dog, and the moment moved on the way good moments do, lightly, without needing to be understood. Here's what that fence taught me. Some people don't want your work. They want a grip. And the most expensive thing you will ever protect is not your paycheck. It's the part of your life that should never be for sale. I built Margaret a beautiful fence, and then I built a better one she'll never see, between her reach and the people I love. That one doesn't rust. Has someone ever tried to buy something from you that was never supposed to have a price? And did you sell, or did you put the tools down? Tell me in the comments. I read them. If this story held you to the end, leave a like and subscribe. There's a new one every week.